What is up, beautiful readers? It's Sky and we're back with another video. Hey reader friends, how are you doing today? I hope you're having a great week so far. I am just now talking to you about the books that I read in September, but you know, better late than never, as they always say. So we're just gonna go ahead and jump right into this. I typically try to read 9 books a month. That seems to be a good, at minimum, that seems to be a good number for me, just because I do work a lot. And so, you know, my free time isn't as available as I would like, especially when it comes to reading, but that's okay, you know? So in the month of September, I read 7 books. So a little bit below my typical average, but that's okay. For the most part, the books that I finished were really good. I'm gonna go ahead and start with my least favorite, then move up to my favorite. So we're gonna start off with When We Were Bright and Beautiful by Gillian Madoff. This was my August book of the month pick, and I, as of right now, have already unhauled this book. I read it, did not like it at all, and immediately sold it. So just kind of give you a quick synopsis. There is a very wealthy white family in New York City, and the main character, she is not technically related to this family. Her parents have passed away, and this family kind of adopted her, but her family was very wealthy as well, so there wasn't really a change in her life coming from her biological parents to her adopted family. The crazy thing in this whole book, though, is that her adopted brother ends up being on trial or accused of sexual assault, and the book is just talking about what that is like from their side. You find out that this family is toxic, and you find out some really disturbing things about the dynamics, the relationships within the family, and it's, by the end, I felt so gross. And just to know who the girl actually ends up having a relationship with, absolutely no. I do not recommend this book to you to read. I just don't. I gave it 1 star. It wasn't for me. I don't understand the purpose behind this book. There are severe trigger warnings, so I would definitely look those up. But again, I don't recommend this book, so hopefully you don't read it. The next book that I read that I do not own for the month of September was Breaking Time by Sasha Alsberg. And if you guys don't know who Sasha Alsberg is, she actually is an OG booktuber here on YouTube. Her channel was called Peruse Utopia, and this was her Project Red. Now, if you've been watching Sasha for a long time, you know that she's been working on this particular book for years. And I say that for reasons. And so this came out, I want to say last year. I gave it 3 stars, but the more that I think about it, I might end up giving it 2, because here's the thing. I didn't watch Outlander. I didn't read Outlander, but Amanda over at Book Lover Amanda really loves that series. And I talked with her about my reading experience, and I wanted to kind of bounce this off of her because I know she has read Outlander. And she said a lot of the story is very, very similar to Outlander. And that just gave me the ick. You know, it didn't seem like a lot of the book was her idea. Now, it could have been. I'm sure there were some original topics, and I will say this book is very fast paced. I did find myself immersed for sure. But yeah, it was whatever. Like I don't even know, like the way that it ended too, it feels like it's supposed to be a series, and I just don't care. Which sounds so bad to say, but like, yeah, so far, most of the booktuber books have just not been my favorite. I've read Christine Ricci's first book, which was called Again But Better, and I did not like that book at all, and so I didn't read Better Again, which has been her second book. That's been published. So yeah, I mean, if you like Scotland, you could maybe give this a try, but it's not going to be anything amazing or life-changing. It's just going to be another kind of time travel-y Scottish heritage story. It felt very self-inserty at points, which was kind of cringy. So it was okay. I definitely don't think I will pick up the second book if another one comes out. Yeah, so that's going to be my rating on that. All right, and then getting into the manga that I read this month, I read 3 volumes of Spy Family. I read 4 of 5 and 6, 4 5 stars, 5 4 stars, 6 3 stars. This is the first edition, I guess you could say, that I've rated less than 4 stars. This one, I can say, has probably been my favorite because you get a lot of Anya and you get introduced to the dog, and it was just so endearing, so funny, and Anya is just the sweetest character and she's the best. 5 was okay. It was, again, I just find myself laughing a lot. Like, even in this volume, though I didn't typically like it as much as the other ones, I still laughed a lot, and I laughed hard because it was very funny. But this one in particular was so bizarre, and it has to do with this character right here, Nightfall. Just some really weird things happen, some weird dialogue. There's also one of Anya's friends who's in 1st grade who models clothes at one point in a department store and just has a weird idea of relationships and romance as a 1st grader that I just think is not appropriate. So beyond that, I highly recommend these. I definitely would not recommend these for lower than like high school. I would say maybe 17, just because the brother and Nightfall get a little weird, but it's such a good time. I highly recommend it. So easy to read. And sorry, my phone storage actually ran out, so I had to delete some things. So I tried to kind of remember where I was, but I think I was talking about Spy Family and that you should read it. But yeah, for Anya alone and for the family dynamic between Twilight and Yor and her, it's a win for me, and I'm excited to finish the most recent publications this month. The last 2 books that I'm going to talk with you guys about, I'm so excited to talk to you about. The first one that I'm going to talk to you about is The Last Train to Memphis, which is the first book in kind of an Elvis Presley biography by Peter Gerlach. And my goodness, was this such a good time. I actually picked this up after I had watched the movie that just came out with Austin Butler in the theater this past June, and I've actually been reading it for the past few months, picking it up every now and then when I'm in the mood, and it's been such an amazing journey and experience. As you can see, I tapped quite a bit. I was just tabbing quotes about Elvis or things that he said, or just like sweet, endearing moments that people would recall of their time with him or a memory with him. And the coolest thing that I've learned so far in the first half of his life, and if you didn't know, this one covers his life from birth to being in the military, and then the second book covers when he returns from the military to when he dies. And so this one at the beginning was very endearing and kind of cool to see how his stardom kind of exploded, and towards the end it actually got really hard to read because it talks about his mother passing away and then him having to be drafted into the military and him kind of having anxiety and worry about like if he's even going to be relevant or if he's even going to have like a job when he gets out of the military. And so yeah, life kind of got real for him there a bit at the end, and it was just kind of hard to see him go through this. And it's interesting because I mean I knew Elvis had faith in God, but I didn't really realize how in-depth it was for him, because all throughout this biography installment in particular, A lot of the people would say he had a Bible with him all the time. And even some of the girls, a lot of the girls, I should say, who were dating him at certain points throughout his life would say how he would always want to read the Bible with them. And it was just, I mean, that part really touched my heart because it's just kind of sad to see how his life ended. And also what's interesting is he despised alcohol and drugs. He did not want it around him. He did not want his friends doing it. He didn't want it in the hotel rooms. And I don't want to spoil all of it, but you just see how his grief of his mother kind of like really messed him up. And I'm just, yeah, I'm not looking forward to reading the second book for that regard because you can tell that there's a difference in him. They had to basically, yeah, I'll let you read it, but it just makes my heart really sad to see how his life was impacted so much with the death of his mother, but he just didn't have any good people around him either that he could trust really, and that really wanted the best for him instead of just using him for fame and money. So yeah, if you're an Elvis fan, or if you're just someone who is interested in hearing about the life of a person who was so famous, I would highly recommend this. I think you'd be surprised about who Elvis was and how he treated people. Elvis is not perfect. And again, I think the first half of his life is very different in comparison to the second half. But Elvis really had respect for people, and he worked really hard. Wow, did he work hard. So it just made me respect him even more. And though I'm not looking forward to reading the second book, I am, just because I want to see, you know, how the second half of his life differed from the first half, because yeah, you could tell by the end of this, he was in a good spot. And the last thing I want to say about this is, like, the writing is so good. Oh, oops. The writing is so good. Like, you feel like you're there either in the room with the biographer, as Elvis is talking to you about his life, or as these other individuals are talking about their memories. You really feel, you get immersed, and you feel like you're there experiencing all of these moments. And the cool thing that I did too is when you talk about a song release or a specific performance or a song, I would listen to it or watch it after I had read it in this, and that just made my experience even more fulfilling, because I really could see the growth and the journey of his whole career. So read it. I would say read it, but that's just me. The last book that I read in September, she's a beaut, Wistress. I definitely want to do a dedicated review of this book on the channel, so I'm not going to go too in-depth on this. But Wistress is the newest release from Nadine Brandes. She wrote Box and Romanoff, and I have not read those, but I definitely am going to now that I've read this, because this was amazing. This is a YA fantasy novel, and in this book we find out Mirth is a Wistress, and what that means is when she cries, her tears are wishes. So if she were to cry and you collect the tear, you can use that for a wish. It's been a couple of 100 years since the last Wistress, so this is a very big deal. And in this book, you follow her journey dealing with this power and this weight and this responsibility, and just to see how that affects her relationships with people, whether it be romantic, family. It is so good, and the main relationship is so cute, and I just love everything about this book. And if you are just not sold, I will do a book review. I think I sold myself. Just read the first chapter. Let me see how many pages the first chapter is. The first chapter is 6 pages. Just for me, read those first 6 pages. You could do it at the bookstore. Go to Barnes & Noble, pick up the book, and be like, you know, this guy said just to read the 6 pages. I'm gonna give it a shot. read the 6 pages, okay? And tell me you won't buy the book. There's no way. You're gonna have to buy the book, because that first chapter, I have not read anything like that at the beginning of a book in a really long time. And when I tell you, it just keeps going and getting better, and your jaw drops and you cry and you laugh and you smile and you just, so good. And the faith, symbolism is just, and the parallels, they're just so good. So read this. And as you can see too, I annotated this as well. I want to reread this book already so badly. So I definitely think that's going to be happening sometime soon. And it's the perfect fall winter vibe on the cover too. So just put it on your TBR. Just put it on your TBR. Put it on your TBR. I have had tea in this mug, but it is so hot. I just was scared to drink it. I thought we're good now because it was gonna burn my tongue, and I didn't want to do that. Yes. So that's going to be my September wrap up outside of When We Were Young and Beautiful and Breaking Time. 7 books, lower than my average, but I'm okay with it. It is what it is. You know, everyone's got their months. September happened to be mine. Kind of slumpy. A lot of that had to do with the first book that I read, which was terrible, and then Wistress, which was so good, and I just had a hard time picking something else up. But yeah, that's gonna wrap up my video. Thank you guys so much for being here and taking the time to watch and comment. It means so much. I hope you have a wonderful weekend or day or night, wherever you find yourself in the world. And I will see you in the next video. Love you very much. Bye.